Hey, welcome back everybody. Happy Wednesday. Hope we're all staying safe out there as we're continuing to deal with this big time storm system crossing the country, and currently it's already brought multiple tornado warnings overnight and into the early morning hours of today through much of the Florida Panhandle and kind of surrounding areas there. So we'll definitely break all of that down for you. There's also still a snowy side of this storm that is continuing to, bring a lot of snow and even blowing snow near blizzard conditions for some areas. And all of this will continue tonight into the northeast with even more snow and a lot of flooding concerns in the northeast. Definitely concerned about that up in that part of the country. And everyone still dealing with wind out there as well, as this big storm, again, is continuing to crank up. Now, that also won't be the only thing we talk about. I'm very quickly going to talk about kind of another storm system later this week, as well as a very cold air outbreak out of Canada that works on into the country going into this weekend and early next week. But really, most of this video will be dedicated to our ongoing severe weather threat. Now, if you haven't already subscribed, definitely consider doing so. Like the video if you like it. Comment, let me know where you're watching from. And as always, if you have any cool pictures, or just, even maybe if they're not so cool and they're just interesting, send them to me with that link in the description, and just kind of quickly fill that out. And in fact, we had multiple people do that yesterday, and we've got a couple different viewer photo submissions here, to take a look at. So first one here is from Kim in Union, Connecticut. Very pretty picture of some snow that fell there. We also have some snow that fell in Meredith, New Hampshire there. This is from Chris McBrien. And he said that they got more than a foot of snow where he lives. So again, a lot of snow kind of in these areas. And our last picture down there is on the border of the UP of Michigan and Wisconsin. And that is a really beautiful picture. I love that with kind of the river there and all of the snow. Very, pretty scenes, and goes to show just how different parts of the country can look this time of year. Here in Charlotte, it's pouring rain, and I haven't seen snow in like 2 years. So, kind of interesting how that works. But thank you all for these pictures. They're very beautiful. And I really do appreciate you taking the time to fill out that form. Alrighty, with that said, let's go ahead now and dive into what is happening out there. And I just tweeted this on Twitter. This is probably one of the most intense storm systems I've, seen on satellite imagery waking up in the morning in a long time. A lot of the times it kind of takes a while for these storms to rejuvenate themselves throughout the day, but here we are at, bright and early in the morning when I'm recording this, and we have a very strong low pressure, and look at just how cold these cloud tops are. Down here into southeastern Alabama, southwestern Georgia, the Florida Panhandle, again, these are getting very high up there into the troposphere this early in the morning. Only spells trouble for our friends further in the east who are going to see this line of storms move on through later in the day. And again, as I said earlier, we've already had multiple tornado warnings today and overnight. Now, radar imagery, unfortunately, is just as menacing here. Look at this very bright, strong squall line working through Alabama currently, absolutely blasting through there. Winds probably gusting in the 70-mile-an-hour range there in parts of it. But again, especially down here, we've seen tornado warnings already. And in fact, I've already seen pictures of tornado damage. So, I had a couple people yesterday call out the thumbnail as, clickbait and, this isn't that big of a deal. Well, unfortunately, we're going to probably lose life today, to be quite honest. And if we didn't already lose it overnight last night as these tornadoes ripped through sections of the southeast, again, it's likely to happen today. So it's just so important that you folks take these warnings seriously. And, trust me, I'm not here to kind of hype these things up. If I tell you a storm is going to be life-threatening, then treat it that way, because likely, it's one of those things that has so much energy that it's almost a guarantee that we're going to see violent weather. And again, we've already seen that overnight tonight and likely to continue today, and we'll break all of that down here in just a moment. Now, current watches, warnings, and advisories, again, this is just, it's quite impressive to be honest with you. I remember yesterday looking at some of the models for this storm, or not yesterday, but about last week, and I said, if this happens, this will be a huge time event, and here we are. The models panned this out perfectly, and we've got warnings and advisories from Maine all the way down to Florida. You could drive all the way up I-95 and not leave a wind advisory or high wind warning. And plenty of flood watches, warnings, tornado watches, warnings, winter storm advisories, winter storm warnings, blizzard warnings. I mean, we've really got it all here, folks. So again, in these kind of beige areas, those are wind advisories. Just about everyone likely watching this video east of the Mississippi is under a wind advisory outside of a couple places in Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. The green boxes, those are flood watches. Again, we're going to get a lot of rain today. And that's already beginning through a big section of the country, but that will only intensify throughout the overnight hours. Kind of the mustard colors, those are high wind warnings, so those are even higher grade than the wind advisories, meaning that winds could gust up near 60 or 70 miles an hour in those areas. And then, of course, those pink colors, those are winter storm warnings, and the purple are winter weather advisories. So, again, very active stuff ongoing. Alrighty, now with that said, let's go ahead and break down what's left of this storm. I'm going to start with the snowy side of things to kind of, I don't want to say breeze on through this because this is very important, but I want to get to the severe weather as soon as possible. So let's go ahead and discuss that snow. Again, through much of today, the snow is going to continue to fall for a lot of folks here, especially back into Missouri, sections of eastern Iowa, northern Illinois, and then back up into Michigan and Wisconsin, where again we will see a lot of snow continuing today, and even some breezy conditions that could help to blow that snow around a little bit. Now, if you're watching in kind of southern Michigan here and into Indiana, Ohio, unfortunately, more of a rain event today. A lot of warm air is getting pushed very far north here. And that is leading to, kind of that changeover from snow to rain. Now, if you're on the colder side of the storm, which is kind of the western side here, again, snow, same for the northern bit of the storm here into northern Michigan and then even the UP of Michigan. Likely a good amount of snow here on the way today. And this is going into overnight. You'll notice that snow continuing to fall and continues to do so throughout the overnight hours. And we even get some nice back-end snow going into early tomorrow morning through much of western Michigan, northern Indiana, and even into sections of Ohio. So if you're not going to see snow today, maybe hold out hope a little bit for overnight tonight and into tomorrow as kind of all this cold air rushes back in behind the storm system, and that could help to bring some snow to some areas that see more rain today than anything else. Luckily, though, the storm does kind of pull out, and we have much nicer conditions going into our our Wednesday afternoon. I also might have called today Wednesday. Today's Tuesday. I'm sorry if I did that. Anyway, so yeah, today's Tuesday, promise. A lot of weather ongoing, so memorizing what day of the week is kind of on the back burner here. Anyway, though, again, this storm kind of moves out to going into our Wednesday afternoon, not our Tuesday. So definitely watching out for that. Now, wind gusts here, again, it's going to be quite gusty for a lot of areas here, really especially picking up this afternoon. Most of the wind, low pressure kind of centered here, most of the wind is on that backside where we're gusting up into, the 40-mile-an-hour range through much of Iowa, eastern Kansas here, sections of Missouri. So again, very close to blizzard conditions. Not quite there for a lot of folks, but isolated spots very likely to get close to it. And that wind continues to pick up. This is this afternoon through much of Iowa, Missouri, and going into overnight tonight, that wind picks up through Wisconsin, Illinois, and tomorrow morning and tomorrow afternoon, the wind then picks up in Ohio, Indiana, and through much of Michigan, as a lot of that energy on the backside of that low pressure kind of works on through here. And then again, going into Wednesday evening, much nicer conditions take over. All right, how much snow is left to fall here? Well, again, a good amount. Isolated spots could still see upwards of a foot here in extreme eastern Iowa and extreme northwestern Illinois there. But I think about half a foot is a more likely scenario for most folks here, especially through southern Wisconsin, northern Michigan, and into parts of the UP. And then again, on the backside of the storm, we could get some snow here that tries to work into northern Indiana and sections of northwestern Ohio there. So again, a lot of people going to see snow here, even if you don't quite see it today. Again, just definitely continuing to watch out for that. Alrighty, that's kind of the snowy side of things, at least in the Midwest. There is some snow still in the Northeast ongoing, or still to come, and we'll talk about that here in just a moment. But taking a look now at the severe weather threat today, and there's a good chance by the time you're watching this something in my eye, this may very well be upgraded to a moderate risk, not off the table here, but either way, the impacts are about the same today still. Very strong wind threat and a very unusually high for January tornado threat here for much of coastal South Carolina, North Carolina, and even inland a little bit along the I-95 corridor, as well as the Florida Panhandle, where again this morning we've already seen multiple tornadoes, and that will continue into the early morning hours and into the afternoon of today. Again, taking a look at that tornado threat, we have two separate yellow areas, and both of those are hatched. That means within any point of 25 miles, you have a 1 in 10 shot of seeing a tornado, which might not sound like a lot, but when normally it's about a 0 out of 10 shot, 1 is a big upgrade from that. And then it being hatched, that means that there's a chance that these tornadoes could be significant, meaning EF2 strength or higher. That's plenty strong enough to destroy homes, especially mobile homes. Again, if you live in a mobile home here in kind of the low country of South Carolina, up through the sandhills of North Carolina, or back down towards western Georgia there in the panhandle of Florida, please have a way to get those warnings. And if you can, just stay with a friend who's in a more sturdy structure. Mobile homes are great, affordable ways to live, but unfortunately, days like today, there's just too much of a risk involved with them. So again, if that's something you can do, definitely consider it. Alrighty, let's break down this radar imagery now. So again, this is kind of about what we're seeing out there right now. A big area of very heavy rainfall. Commute this morning through Atlanta, back up towards Greenville, Spartanburg, Asheville. Just absolutely brutal. Pouring rain, the wind is picking up. If you're further south of there, though, down here through southern Georgia and into the Florida Panhandle, a bit more of a severe weather threat. That line is a little bit skinnier, so a little bit less of a flooding threat down here, but more of a severe weather threat. And you'll notice as we move this ahead into about noon today, here comes that squall line now working on through upstate South Carolina, kind of down through the heart of Georgia and even into the Big Bend of Florida, where again that tornado threat will continue here for much of this area that I have circled on your map. Another thing you will notice this afternoon is we have some more discrete cells trying to fire off ahead of this into sections of South Carolina. And I'll be storm chasing this actually. By the time you're watching this, I'm likely already leaving Charlotte to get down there. And again, tornado threat going to be a big time problem here today into sections of eastern South Carolina and southeastern North Carolina. I cannot understate that. This is kind of one of those rare events that we see this high of a threat, especially in January. Oftentimes, if it's this high, it's in spring, sometimes the fall. But not the middle of January here. So again, don't want you to get caught off guard. Good news is a lot of schools closed today. That I think was a very smart decision by those school districts. So I think more people will be home, maybe tuning in a little bit more, a little more aware that the weather is going to be rocky this afternoon. Now, by the time we get into about 2, 3 o'clock, this squall line is now organizing and tapping into a little bit more thunderstorm fuel, and we can have strong straight line damaging winds from Greensboro all the way down towards Jacksonville and into the Orlando area. And look at this squall line goes all the way down into the Gulf of Mexico. So really the entire state of Florida is going to be impacted by the squall line, whether that's this afternoon or overnight tonight. Same story for all of Georgia and the Carolinas as this thing really strengthens. Again, this is about 3 o'clock Eastern time this afternoon, and still dealing with some of these potential supercells ahead of that squall line in eastern North Carolina and northeastern South Carolina. Now moving this further ahead into time, that continues to push on through. By the time the sun is setting, now moving through Columbia, Florence, and eventually into the Raleigh area overnight tonight. And the good news is, by the time we get to about midnight, we should finally be clear of kind of the severe weather. But I'll show you this in a second. The winds will still be whipping here on the backside of this storm, and we'll even have a couple chances of some snow flurries there on the backside through sections of Tennessee and Kentucky. Now, just to show you these winds in another map here, again, here they come already kind of picking up this afternoon through much of Tennessee, Kentucky, southern Indiana, getting up near 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts. And you'll notice as we go into overnight tonight, here they are. They're still there, and in fact, even picking up a little bit more through sections of Tennessee and Kentucky into about the midnight hour, still gusting in that 40 to 50-mile-an-hour range. And that continues all through the overnight before finally waking up tomorrow and going into Wednesday. I think things generally calm down a little bit, at least for places through the Ohio River Valley. Now, back east into the mid-Atlantic may still be whipping a little bit, and we'll take a look at that map in just a second. I just realized I never moved this map towards the southeast, so give me 1 second here. Hang in there with me. Alrighty. Yeah, so the southeast, also very strong winds today. Again, we're already seeing those winds, especially in southern Georgia, the Florida Panhandle, almost as if a tropical storm were moving on through. And going into this afternoon, look at those winds continuing to pick up ahead of that squall line. We could be gusting 50 to 60 miles an hour through much of South Carolina, eastern Georgia here during the afternoon hours. Same story for eastern South Carolina. And look at these winds really picking up as that squall line moves on through. Very bright colors here showing up again through coastal South Carolina down into the heart of Florida, into the Savannah area. And again, even after this moves on through, it's still breezy. Through Mississippi, Alabama, still seeing those very strong winds. And again, I think we get kind of a, revigorating shot of that wind energy overnight tonight as the sun is going down and a bit more energy works on through, even into upstate South Carolina. Could gust up towards tropical storm strength overnight tonight. And that continues through the Midlands of South Carolina into the Piedmont of the Southeast. And finally, that clears on out going into tomorrow morning when we should have a much nicer day in store. Now, rainfall going to be a problem here in this part of the country for sure. You'll notice Kentucky, Tennessee, about 1 to 3 inches, so nothing too off the charts here. But it's kind of further off to the south and east here, back towards South Carolina, especially the upstate there, through northern Georgia and the mountains of North Carolina. Still a heavy amount of rain to come, likely about 3 inches widespread there. And it's already started raining. We've already seen more than that, or not more than 3 inches, but we've already seen rainfall in a big section of the southeast here. So this is still what's to come, at least from about this morning on. So if you're watching this in the afternoon, might be a little bit less than this, but nonetheless, a lot of rain. That's going to cause flooding concerns. Down towards the southeast, again, about 1 to 3 inches through much of coastal South Carolina, southern Georgia, and much of the Florida peninsula here. Luckily, the further south you get, the more of just a squall line threat this will be, so it'll be a quick hit of rain compared to prolonged periods of rain like we're going to see in the western Carolinas. And that's why we have even more of a flood threat there in the western Carolinas. You'll notice we have a moderate risk of flash flooding this afternoon from the I-85 corridor from Oconee County up through about Shelby, North Carolina, and Cleveland County, North Carolina, and back towards Transylvania County, Henderson County, and kind of surrounding areas. Again, flooding a big-time concern today. Now, that's not the only area, though. I know the red is kind of immediately what jumps out, but if you're in this yellow area, watch out today from Atlanta towards Columbia, Charlotte, Raleigh, back up towards Richmond, Roanoke. Could easily see some flooding today as well. And then you'll notice as we get into the northeast, and we're about to forecast that area in just a second, another big area of potential flooding here that we've got to watch out for going into this afternoon and especially overnight tonight. Now, with that said, let's go ahead and dive into the northeast here. So, again, I think, things relatively tame this morning, but that quickly changes. And, in fact, you'll notice a quick burst of snow breaking out likely in the higher elevations of West Virginia and up into the higher terrains of Pennsylvania. Unfortunately for snow lovers, though, that warm air is going to come in very quickly and erode that. And by the time we're getting into this afternoon, we're all rain through much of Pennsylvania, New Jersey, through the Delmarva, and very moderate to heavy rainfall at that. Now, that snow continues to work northbound, and we could get a good snowstorm out of this. This is going into overnight tonight, especially through Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. Those are the states that are going to have the best shot at significant accumulating snowfall. But to the south of there, again, flooding a threat here from Philly through Jersey, up into New York City and Rhode Island, Connecticut, and even up towards the Boston area. Look at all this very heavy rainfall. Now, you can't see it on this map, but if we were to look at precipitable water or PWatt values here, there's just a plume of moisture that stretches from kind of right here into this low pressure all the way down below the map into the Gulf of Mexico. So that's why we have such a big flooding threat. There's plenty of moisture to wring out here, and should any of these storms kind of ride over the same area, we're going to get big-time rainfall totals over a short period of time. Now, that rain continues through the overnight. This is going about midnight, 1 in the morning, finally clearing out back towards Pennsylvania, Maryland, D.C., Baltimore. But that rain now picking up through kind of the Boston area, Hartford, Providence, and eventually, continues to work offshore. And by the time we're waking up tomorrow, nicer conditions, but snow still falling there through much of northern Maine and rain through southern Maine. Now, through tomorrow afternoon, could see some scattered back-end, rain showers or snow showers. In fact, some of these might even be some thunderstorms trying to get going tomorrow afternoon, or, some cold core thunderstorms, as we like to call them, meaning, a lot of cold air aloft. So maybe a little bit of hail tomorrow in sections of Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine there. This is the latest high-resolution rapid refresh showing that. So, if you're in that part of the country, definitely watch out for that. But again, either way, tomorrow afternoon and evening looks much nicer, especially compared to today. All right, wind gusts starting down here in the mid-Atlantic and working our way up. Again, it is going to get breezy this afternoon, and let me refresh the page so it functions properly. Here we go. Again, this is this afternoon, very breezy conditions, especially in the higher terrains of West Virginia, again, Pennsylvania through Ohio, very, breezy winds. Same story down towards South Carolina, North Carolina, and eventually up into Virginia, especially southeastern Virginia here. We could get some very strong winds here kind of in the Virginia Beach area and kind of there through the Great Dismal Swamp. Storm chased through that area before, obviously not in the swamp itself, but kind of along it. Kind of a fun thing to say there, Great Dismal Swamp. But either way, that kind of area, definitely could see strong winds back down towards Elizabeth City, North Carolina. Could be gusting into tropical storm strength this afternoon and evening. And again, overnight tonight, we get a second surge of wind here as the storm pulls away up into the Midwest. And here we are still gusting to very strong conditions. Now, again, luckily, going into our Wednesday afternoon, things calm down, but there's still isolated spots of very strong winds we need to watch out for here through sections of the Mid-Atlantic. Northeast, again, going to be windy here as well. In fact, we've got high wind warnings, again, for much of the New York and Pennsylvania and even Ohio coastline here. Again, for winds that could gust near hurricane strength here towards Buffalo, back down towards Erie and Cleveland. Not out of the question there to see some very strong winds. Now further inland, higher terrains also going to get in on very strong winds, and same story for the coast here. Overnight tonight, about midnight, look at these winds whipping through New York City. Again, could be gusting up near 60-65 miles an hour. And if you're up on Mount Washington tonight, which I can't imagine you are, but if you are, hold on, because I would not be surprised to see winds gusting past 100 miles an hour there. Kind of one of the windier places in the country, and it's going to really show tonight. Now, going into tomorrow morning, things kind of calm down a little bit, although still rough in Maine. You'll notice here, this is about the time you're waking up. Still very gusty winds, almost like a nor'easter moving on through with snow, rain, and very strong winds. Before tomorrow afternoon, again, kind of a second surge of wind here through Pennsylvania and sections of the Buffalo area. So watching out for that as that lake effect really cranks up. And then I think we finally clear out wind-wise going overnight Wednesday into Thursday. Now, how much snow are we expecting in the Northeast? Well, again, isolated spots here could see upwards of a foot, I think, up into these higher terrains of Vermont and Maine. Not out of the question. Outside of there, I think about half a foot through northern Maine. Could also see some good snow accumulations up into upstate New York, where we try to hold on to that snow a little bit longer. But this is going to be very elevation dependent. If you're kind of lower in elevation, more of a rain event. If you're up on top of the mountain, again, you could see maybe upwards of a foot of snow, not out of the question, from New York State up through Maine. Now, rainfall total is going to be a big concern as well. Isolated spots here along the I-95 corridor from northern New Jersey through Connecticut and Rhode Island could see upwards of 5 inches of rain, and that's easily going to cause flooding issues. Again, we also have a lot of snowpack here that's going to melt with this, so those rivers and streams, they're going to fill up very quickly, and I'm quite concerned about flooding here, especially given the timing. This will be overnight tonight. So if you're in a flood-prone area, make sure you have a way to get watches, warnings, and any kind of flash flood emergencies that may even be issued for all of this runoff snow and all of the ongoing rain that's already happening. All right, now I'm not going to forget about our friends up in Canada. Again, a big-time storm for them as well. Here comes that snow overnight tonight. This is about midnight here in eastern Canada, and we've got heavy snow falling there through a big chunk here through some of these provinces, and that will continue going into the early morning hours where snow could break out through sections of southern Nova Scotia, and then eventually that snow starts to break out through really much of the island of Nova Scotia. Now, if you are watching there, again, I think we're going to start as rain in the southern part of Nova Scotia, but eventually changing back over starting as snow, changing over to rain. I might have flipped that up a little bit. But either way, that's likely. Now, if you're, watching up into Newfoundland, again, snow likely breaking out tomorrow afternoon and evening, and could be heavy at times, and likely staying snow the entire time. And even, kind of scattered snow showers through much of the day here, through Thursday, and through much of eastern Canada, before finally we clear out going into our Friday. But don't get too excited because, again, another storm on the way, and that could bring even more snow to sections here of Canada. Now, how much snow are we talking? Again, an additional widespread, maybe 10 to 20 centimeters of snow. Isolated spots here, I think, could get 20 to 30 centimeters of snow, especially kind of in this circled area on your map. Kind of a less densely populated part of Canada here, a little bit further inland, but if you do happen to live in this area, again, a lot of snow on the way. As for Newfoundland, especially that southern tip, could see 15 centimeters of snow, not out of the question. Nova Scotia, I think 5 to 10 centimeters of snow widespread is a little bit more likely, as again, a little bit more warm air there is going to work on through and unfortunately cut back on those snow totals. Alrighty, that's the current storm. Let's quickly debrief on the next storm coming later this week, and then I'll let you go here because, again, this is going to be a very long week. So we've gotten through today's storm, luckily, by the time we get into tomorrow. But then here comes another one. This is Friday morning, and we've already got low pressure developing down near Texas, and that quickly strengthens. And once again, we've got a very strong storm system. In fact, satellite imagery Friday afternoon is probably going to look a lot like today. Strong storms likely developing down here into Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, the Carolinas, with snow and near blizzard conditions back up here on the north side, and everybody once again getting in on very windy conditions in between. This is overnight Friday going into Saturday. Very heavy snow on our latest European model breaking out through northern Illinois, northern Indiana, southern Michigan there, and again, severe weather down towards the south and east of there. This storm continues to strengthen, and by the time we get into midnight here, Friday into Saturday, this storm could be less than 970 millibars. Now, I won't get super behind the science here, but the main reason behind that is obviously the windier it is, that usually means the tighter the pressure gradient, or the closer warm and cold temperatures are. And that's going to happen big time because this storm is going to pull down big time Arctic air on the backside, and that clashing with this warm Gulf air, this pressure gradient is going to be intense. We could have 60-degree temperatures not that far from 20-degree temperatures here, and that's going to lead to big time wind trying to fill that void and balance it out. That's why this pressure could be so low here. going into this weekend storm. Anyway, that continues though, moving up through the Midwest here, going through overnight Friday into Saturday, and even through the day Saturday, likely bringing impacts, and at that point, bringing bigger impacts up into eastern Canada before, spoiler alert, going into next week, here comes another storm already trying to form. But we'll deal with that as we get a little bit closer. Again, let's get through today before we discuss too much into the future here. So how much snow with this second storm? Well, a lot of our models hinting at widespread snow totals near half a foot to a foot through northern Illinois, northern Indiana, much of Michigan, and then that snow even potentially getting into sections of the Northeast and especially into eastern Canada. Big time snow totals here. With widespread areas could see 20 to 30 centimeters of snow there into eastern Canada before finally that kind of pulls on out, and then again here comes the next storm already showing up on our models about a week out from now, and that one could be a southern snowstorm. We'll have to kind of wait and see. Again, still about a week out, so we'll spend some time later on talking about that one. Now, we will have other concerns here. Again, I think severe weather going to be a problem once again with this next storm. 3 days from now, here we go. A slight risk already issued by the Storm Prediction Center. For this, let me do my math. Today is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, so this is Thursday. Could see strong storms once again in eastern Texas through Louisiana, Mississippi, and southern Arkansas. And then don't hold your breath. Here we go on Friday. From the Carolinas back through Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, and the Florida Panhandle back under the gun, just like we saw overnight last night and into this morning and even into this afternoon, going to look very similar. Now, one more thing I very quickly will touch on. Again, that cold Arctic outbreak still expected. Here we go, going into this weekend. Very cold, very below average temperatures for much of Montana and Idaho and into western Canada. And eventually, that's likely to spill into the Central Plains and eastern United States going later on into next week. Now, I had a comment yesterday. Somebody said there's no way we're getting 50-degree below temperatures here into Montana. First of all, I will mention this is how far below average the temperatures are. So, for example, this is Saturday morning. Right here, if I were to just click where the 50 degrees below average is, it's showing temperatures here in the higher terrains of Montana at about negative 28 degrees Fahrenheit. So you're right, it's not going to be 50 below zero, but it might be 30 below zero. So, good try, good guess. But again, this map really is just here to show temperature anomaly, not the exact temperature, just how far the departure is from normal. And again, that likely to spill into the central part of the United States and eventually even into the eastern United States, at least according to our latest European model, going about 7 to 10 days from now. So again, a very active pattern here ahead for a lot of folks, including right now through at least the next 10 days. I'll just tell you, it's going to be nonstop here, with a very active time. With that said, again, I do appreciate you hanging in there with me, and I will be out storm chasing this afternoon, like I mentioned, so I'll try to get some good footage for you, hopefully have another storm chasing video of sorts tomorrow. And tomorrow's also my first day of classes, so if that's something and you're the praying type, definitely pray for me. Should be interesting start of spring semester 2024, but I'm very excited and again looking forward to learning more so I can make these videos even more educating, if you will, and even probably better with the forecasting. With that said, though, again, hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday. It is, not Wednesday, and I will see you all tomorrow.